Hello.
So Cam, what brings you out here today?
Oh, we're out here to play some pond hockey up here in Meredith as part of the Pond Hockey Classic. It's a great cold winter day to really participate in some, what I would consider a great part of New England culture, getting out on the lake and playing some hockey.
You know, if I didn't come from a family with pond hockey as part of its fabric, I would have invented it. It's just too good. Here's my uncle, and here's my grandmother, cripping my uncle. Some decades later, it was me, my brother, and all our friends down at the swamp that my dad let fill with rainwater. We'd have classic games that would go into the night. We knew what winter was for. So when Cam Wake, ice core scientist at the University of New Hampshire, told me that he was going to be playing at the New England Pond Hockey Classic on Lake Winnipesaukee and would speak to us about the connection to climate change, I didn't need any convincing. The only hard part was watching as everybody else got to play.
One of the things that defines us as New Englanders is really the weather and the climate. People that were brought up here expect that the ice was going to freeze in winter and they'd be out there playing pond hockey, or they'd be out skiing or snowmobiling. You can see here there's lots of bob houses. They'd be out ice fishing. And there's a whole economy that's been developed around sort of winter in New England. And what we've seen over the course of the past few decades is that we're getting winters that are warmer, they end rather abruptly, and we have spring coming in really quickly. We're having winters that start much later than they used to. Chances of a white Christmas are much lower now than they used to be. We also know one of the great things about New England weather, as Mark Twain put it, is the dazzling uncertainty of it. This winter happens to be a really snowy winter. And actually one that is not inconsistent with our understanding of a world warmed by greenhouse gases. When we warm up, the atmosphere has the potential to hold much more moisture, and therefore that moisture at some point will come down, and it results in bigger precipitation events. And that's part of what we're seeing this year. More moisture in the atmosphere, bigger storms, resulting in bigger snowfall here across New England.
So this year, anyway, we've still got some snow and ice, and that's good for Scott Crowder, too.
I was in skates at age 2, and finished playing my college hockey at UMass Amherst a little over 2 years ago.
Scott founded the New England Pond Hockey Classic in 2010 to keep hockey going strong.
And in regards to the hockey community, it's been ridiculous. Last year we had 77 teams, we had 45 on a wait list. This year we have 152 teams competing. At one point we had over 100 teams on a wait list. It's just unique. That's how the sport started. It started with people playing outside, and it's pure, it's raw. It's fun. That's the bottom line. That's the one word to kind of describe it.
But if you want to have fun on snow and ice, and if you want your kids to have fun on snow and ice, you have to have snow and ice. And Cam Wake has made a career of studying the stuff he likes to play on.
So one of the indicators of climate change across New England that's been really useful for us to track changes is ice out dates on lakes across the entire region. So people have been keeping records here on Lake Winnipesaukee for well over a century on the dates that the ice leaves in the spring. And what we found over the last century is that date is occurring earlier and earlier in the season, meaning that the ice stays on a shorter period of time and leaves earlier. And you know, one other piece that I think is important to mention on this note is that the climate system really has a lot of key, what we call tipping points. So think about the climate system not as a dimmer switch on a light, but actually as a switch that turns it off and on. And there's several of these tipping points in the climate system, whether it's ocean circulation in the North Atlantic, whether it's sea ice in the Arctic, whether it's big ice sheets that store tremendous amounts of fresh water. When we look at our paleoclimate records, that's records of past climate change, we see that there's been dramatic change in these systems that has led to dramatic climate change, you know, in the order of less than a decade and sometimes 2 to 3 years. And unfortunately, we don't know exactly what drives all of those tipping points. And so it's going to be really important for humanity not to push the climate system over one of these key tipping points that then ends up in dramatic climate change that will be very difficult for humanity to adapt to and deal with. What does it mean to be able to play hockey with your kids?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great question. As climate changes, this notion of sort of small, gradual change, one of those key tipping points is one we could see right here. You know, what happens if Lake Winnipesaukee doesn't freeze in the future? Yeah. What happens to, you know, the people that have been brought up and are grounded in their communities, where you go ice fishing and you go out with your kids and play hockey, and you go cross-country skiing or you go snowmobiling? So one of those tipping points could in fact be the ice doesn't come in, or only comes in for very short periods of time, and therefore becomes very dangerous, so you can't go out on it. So there's tipping points all over the climate system, and one of them, you know, may be really relevant for really what is a key part of New England culture, which is getting out with your family on a beautiful winter day.
There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of sponsors involved, and I think it's a very positive thing for everybody involved.
One of the sponsors of the event, and they also happen to be a sponsor of this TV show, is EARTHTEC, who saw in the event the principles and good fun that drives their business.
8 degrees in the sun. Right. Well, EARTHTEC is, as a lot of people here now know, is a sustainable lifestyle brand. When I got into this, it was clear to me that the industry definitely didn't need another apparel brand. There's a lot of great brands out there making great products. What's different about us is that we, at the core of the company, are completely committed to sustainable textiles and to better business practices. So this event allows us to flex our muscles, so to speak, and show who we are and how we do things differently.
You guys are pretty ugly.
To that end, doing things differently from the consume and leave your waste behind thinking of the past, EARTHTEC and the Pond Hockey Classic teamed up with Athletes for a Fit Planet. Bruce Rayner is their Chief Green Officer.
There's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity to introduce an entire sustainability program for events. And we started with road races, we started with triathlons, we work with charity walks, bike rides, bike races all over the country. You know, when you're running, when you're swimming, when you're biking, when you're playing hockey, whatever it is you're doing, you're in the elements. And that's a critical part of what you do, and that connection with the environment, the natural environment, is you know, part of why you're doing what you're doing. It's that love of the outdoors. And so to marry your passion for the sport with your passion for the environment, it's just a natural thing.
So, you know, if you think, where else do you get 1,000 men out on a Friday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning out doing physical activity? You know, that doesn't happen a lot. And I think it really speaks to the importance of outdoor recreation in snow and in ice, to understand that our culture in New England is fundamentally integrated with the weather and the climate that we experience, as well as the topography. It's really part of the sense of place.